Welcome to the Great Beer State podcast from the Michigan Brewers Guild. The Great Beer State is a weekly show sharing conversations and stories from the passionate people who contribute to our vibrant Michigan beer community. It is made up of a mix between full-length archived interviews from the Guild's first documentary book project, A Rising Tide, Stories from the Michigan Brewers Guild, and conversations recorded in the here and now. Each episode is kicked off with a conversational update from host Scott Graham, Executive Director of the Guild, and the beer-evangelist Fred Biltman, author of A Rising Tide. Here's Scott and Fred. Welcome to Michigan's Great Beer State podcast. I'm here again with my good friend Scott Graham. My name's Fred, and we've got a great episode for you today. We're going to talk to Sherry Kepsel, currently Assistant Director for the Michigan Brewers Guild. Actually, we're going to introduce the episode, which includes an interview that we recorded back in 2018 up at the UP Fall Beer Festival in Marquette, Michigan. But first, I'll welcome Scott to the show, and we'll cover whatever needs to be covered. What are the current updates here in the fall headed towards winter of 2021, Scott?
Fred, great to see you again today. I guess it's fall. It's getting cool. I feel a little troubled by COVID continuing to rear its ugly head as far as the numbers go. An interesting milestone that we hit just in the last week or so was we crossed the 70% threshold of adults. I think it's over 16 having at least one shot, but it was a targeted milestone, the 70% mark. And as we hit that, we also have a high case rate going on right now. And it's troubling me a little bit just because it's now cold. We're going inside, it's inside time, which my mind says probably is, more of this contact that could spread disease. So I hate to drag COVID news back in, but it's certainly something I'm thinking about.
Yeah, it is where we are. And that affects, throughout the winter, that affects all the brewery members in their tasting rooms. It affects so many other people in our community, whether it be how they go about their lives or how it affects their world of beer. And then, as we look towards next year, our next in-person events, which we're so glad to get back to, we've got the Michigan Great Beer State Conference and Trade Show coming up in January in Traverse City. And then we've got the Winter Beer Festival in February. So we do have an eye out for, what could happen over winter and whether those in-person events will be able to move forward as planned. Any thoughts or insight, or whether it be COVID related or also just sort of getting people the information of where to go and what to look for the conference, especially?
Yeah, the conference registration should be open by the time anybody's hearing this. We're a little behind schedule. I think I made the same note a week ago when we talked, but mibeer.com, everything will be driven through the website at mibeer.com.
Yeah. And so for member breweries that you're either new to this idea or just an update, since we're coming back from a year where we made changes and adapted into a virtual conference, what should people expect? What's the Great Beer State Conference all about?
Of course, it's a great time for us to get together and not be working on a festival, with the focus being education. And really the underlying theme to me is beer quality. The more we know, the better our beer can be, the better our businesses can run. The better the supply chain can be. So it all has a mind towards advancing the industry on different levels. And of course, it's a lot of fun. And this year, we're excited to add to the longtime partnership of the Brewers Guild and Master Brewers Association, MSU Extension, and what they've done for years with their Hop and Barley Conference. So there's an agricultural focus that'll be additional separate tracks, and we'll get to spend time with those folks during social time and all the outside the educational sessions at the conference, or anybody, of course, can check out hop or barley or malt specific tracks as well.
Yeah. And when or what does this, I guess what I want to ask is when do people find out who the speakers are coming, which speakers are coming and who they are and what they're talking about? I think what I wanted to lead into there is talking about it's another year of dynamic world-class educators and industry members coming in to share their knowledge. So when can people dig into that and start planning their days?
Again, a preliminary schedule should be up on our website, subject to some minor changes, of course, but the preliminary schedule should be up by the time this podcast is available for consumption.
Great. And in general, there's the trade show on Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday, there are now 4 tracks of education. There's brewing, there's business, there's hops, and there's barley. So there's 4 concurrent tracks of really dynamic educational opportunities. So be sure to check that out. And with that, we can jump right in. We're taking one more week off of Brewers Dozen, and we're going to start our 3rd lap around the many talented Michigan breweries. And we'll jump right into introducing our guest star for the week. We talked with Sherry, who's a longtime member of the Michigan Brewers Guild staff. This interview is from 2018. So there a few things have moved around and shifted since then, but this was up at the Fall Beer Festival before lots of different stuff has happened. But I really enjoyed listening back to the interview and have a large appreciation for what Sherry brings to the group and the amount of work, but nobody probably sees that in action as much as you do. So what are your thoughts on listening back and maybe what people should look forward to in hearing from Sherry?
I would take a moment to compliment her on her work ethic, her intelligence, and her ability to work through and learn things. She's a great asset to the Guild. She does so much of what happens behind the scenes of any festival, or making sure that we keep our books and manage what's going on with our business. There can be a lot of work involved with just keeping a membership database, following up on dues payments, festival payments, all kinds of those things that nobody should have to think about, but somebody has to. And she does a great job of managing all that, wrangling all that. We work really well together, so I really appreciate having her on the team. And I really enjoyed going back and listening to her interview, because I think she's got an interesting perspective. Of course, when the interview was recorded, it talks about her being 4 years into her job with the Guild, and now we're at 7 years. I guess we're just about there. So it's been a little longer. She's even more of an asset now. But again, she found the job opportunity because she was part of the beer festival community and was into beer. And so that gives her an interesting perspective. She and I still talk about that. What was stuff like to her when she was coming to a festival? What was her perception from being on the other side? And it's fun to talk about too, now that you're on this side, what's it ruined for you and what's better for you. So those are fun conversations.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times when you talk about board members and you talk about collaborators, they're coming through some sort of industry doorway of being an employee of a brewery or a brewer or some aspect like that. And I think that we have a lot of engagement with consumers, but to have this vital team member come in and then share their perspective of what it was like to come in really as a consumer, and then bring her other skills and kind of tied to a different industry or career path. I think it's great. It was great to hear. And I think it's one of the things she lends to, just like what you said, it's one of the things she lends to the organization is a different perspective and all the great work. So thank you, Sherry. I look forward to more people hearing this story. She also mentions Shannon, who we featured a number of episodes ago, another great team member and asset who's no longer specifically in the organization, which has been part of those changes. But just a really big shout out and thank you for the work. And unless you got anything else, we can head to the.
I will. I'll add one other point that I think is fun, and it kind of was highlighted in the interview. But her closest neighborhood brewery for many years was Sherwood Brewing Company, and she is now just about to take her third and youngest child to Sherwood Brewing for their first legal beer, which she's done with the other two. So that's a fun piece of connective tissue that I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. Well, happy birthdays all around. Enjoy your Sherwood libations. And here we'll head to Lower Matson Park in Marquette, Michigan in 2018 to talk to Sherry. Cheers. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Fred.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, we're kind of just talking about the overview and the history of the Guild. So when did you first, tell me the story of how you first got involved with the Michigan Brewers Guild.
So let's see, it was 2014, so just about 4 years ago, November, December, they put an ad on Facebook, and I followed the Brewers Guild on Facebook because I came to all the festivals and I'm a big craft beer fan. So they put an ad for a bookkeeper, 10 hours a week, part-time. And I thought, heck, I've been doing accounting my whole life. I'm a CPA, and I love Michigan craft beer. So I was looking for a part-time job anyway. Applied for the job and had to kind of convince them that I was the right person for it because, a little bit overqualified in a way or whatever. But so my first interview was actually with Scott Newman Bale over the phone in his car with his British accent. But it was an exciting opportunity because I figured what a great way to combine, what I'm good at and my love for craft beer. So I was lucky enough to get the job, but I liked working with everybody so much that instantaneously became like more than 10 hours a week. Like I'll do whatever else, so started coming to the festivals and pitching in with whatever needed to get done and turned it into a career, really. And I love it. It's great. It's been, it'll be 4 years in December.
That's great. Thank you for all your work.
Oh, I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it.
So how has your perspective said, you say you loved craft beer, you love Michigan beer, and that's kind of what brought you in to the community enough to know about the opportunity.
Right.
So how has your perspective changed? Like what was your view and reason for loving Michigan beer before you worked for the Guild? And how has that changed now that you've got 4 years in?
It kind of evolved with the whole beer thing with me. So I have brothers that are quite a bit older than me. And so my brother lived out in New Mexico and he lived in Colorado for a while. And he would bring home suitcases full of Coors Light or Sierra Nevada. And at the time, it was unheard of out here. So it started at a very young age where it was like, don't drink this, drink that. Don't drink Budweiser, don't drink Miller, drink a craft beer.
Yeah.
And I remember my first taste of Sierra Nevada being like, this is the most awful thing I've ever had in my life, this happy IPA or whatever. But, I became very much of a big fan of it. And then when the Michigan scene started to boom, the first thing really that exposed me to it was the Summer Beer Festival in Ypsilanti. My husband at the time, he said we should go check this out because we were
going to. What year do you think that was?
That was probably, let me think, I got married in 91. Probably maybe 1992, something like that, 93. Has it been that long? When did we first start doing them? Was it 90? No, 97.
I think it started later than that. So
Yeah.
98 was probably the first Summer Beer Festival?
I don't think it was the very first one then. It might have been 99.
Okay.
But so it was
so early,
it was,
though.
It was a cool
Was it in
concept.
Livonia?
No,
or
it wasn't
Frog
Ipsy.
Island?
It was in Ipsy. So maybe the first year you guys.
So then
were
that
in
was
Ipsy,
probably 2000.
Okay.
Is my guess.
But
Not
we
that it
had
matters,
started
but-
going to like whatever the local brew pubs that were starting to open up around. You couldn't go to a bar and get a Michigan craft beer. It was just not something, Grand Rapids had their thing going, but I live on the east side. So I remember the first time we did go to Summer Beer Fest, and yeah, I'm old, so my memory sucks, but being exposed to that many beers in one place, it was the coolest thing ever. Like, can we just stay here all day and try everything, So that whole concept, we went to Summer that year, and then we went to Detroit, and I know for a fact we went to the first Detroit Beer Fest, so it's 10 years this year, and we went to every single one of them, right up until I got the job.
Yeah.
Because it was really, at the time, the only place you could go and try all these different amazing beers. So it was kind of a fangirl thing at that time. And then when I got the job, it became, I don't know how to say this right, less about the beer and more about the people. Once I started to know, my first local brew pub that we hung out with was Sherwood, and they've been open for 12 years now in Shelby Township. And it was the same kind of thing there. You'd go in there because you're trying these cool beers that you can't get in a store, but it was a community. It was like a Cheers, like all the same people at the bar. Ray and Lisa, the owners, would come around and talk to everybody. And I liked that. I liked that concept. And coming to the festivals was kind of the same thing. We'd go up to Frankenmuth to go to Webb, and it's not the same thing because it's, the JCs and the volunteers pouring the beer. You'd come to the Brewers Guild festivals, and you're actually talking. I remember having an extensive conversation at Fall Beer Festival one year with Dan Rogers from Griffin Claw about, me being this fangirl, like, I love your beer, and he's like, that thing's a pain in the ass to make. It was Bronny's Raggedy Ass IPA. Or Ryan from Witch's Hat, same thing. Like, they would talk to you, and, like, it seemed like these guys care about what you think, the beer drinker, their customer or whatever. So on the other end of it, when I started working here, it's like that sense of community, that everybody helps each other out. Somebody needs advice or needs a question answered. What's wrong with my beer? Why does it have this off flavor? It just seems like everybody was always willing to lend a hand or speak out. I just felt instantaneously part of a bigger thing. It wasn't just a job. Mm-hmm. It's like a family. Yeah. And just, got sucked in even more. And it's funny, I think I drink less beer now than I did before because it's so readily available or whatever. But it's a community. It's hard to explain to people that haven't been on the inside, I guess.
Yeah. Do you have a sense, I imagine you have a sense, I'm hoping you could describe it, like, what is the guild sort of, I don't know, how does it hold space for that community? Like, what do you think the impact is of the guild existing at all in terms of
that's a big one.
What you talked about? Well,
I guess, when I try to explain it to people, we're the guild, and I feel like most of our member breweries, this isn't a let's get rich scheme. We're a nonprofit organization. The majority of our members are small, family owned, we call mom and pop or whatever. Brewers, ooh, sorry.
No problem. They're built for it.
I forgot where I was.
You were saying most of your members are small.
Yeah, and we're a nonprofit. It's not about the money. It's a passion. They're almost like artists. Is the way I like to describe the guy. Most of the guys that I know and most of the guys that I've met. I would imagine it's similar to chefs, cooks, stuff like that. It's a love of what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And the guild, to me, it's like, I don't know, without the organization kind of drawing everyone together in a group, it would be more scattered. I don't think it would be such a family thing. And the festivals I think that's obviously the main part of it. And that's where, that's our fundraisers. That's where we make all of our money, and then turn around and, use that to do legislation and marketing and the magazine and promote this industry. So to me, it's like a collaboration of, the guys are out there making their beer and doing their thing, and we're trying to let everybody know about it.
Yeah. Do you think those are kind of the two sides of the of the coin, or are there more? So the sides I hear are saying, basically we're holding space for people to come together.
Yeah.
And then we're also taking action to sort of strengthen our community, whether that be politically or otherwise. But
Right.
there's just that social aspect of building family ties through getting people together, and then we're an active guild doing stuff on behalf of our industry. Is that the two things? Are there more? I guess maybe if I think about seeding it a little bit, there's education and promotion.
The conference is a huge thing, I think. That was something that was kind of a mystery to me when I first started working here too. I'd never really been to, coming from the accounting side of things, I'd been to accounting conferences. It's a whole different thing though. Our winter conference, it's education sessions and it's great, but it's also, again, more of a community building thing too.
Yeah.
But we do provide those tools. We do, provide the opportunity for people to call and at least guide them in the direction where they can get what they're looking for education-wise. So I actually think that is a big part of it too.
Yeah.
And just fighting for, their rights and the laws that have been changed. And, I don't know the previous, I only know, since I've been here, and I'm still learning all the time. It's the amount of knowledge that someone like Scott has on the whole history of it too, and the way it's evolved. I never realized before I worked here, what the changes that have been made in the different laws and excise laws and franchise laws and all that kind of stuff that they're constantly looking into. There's somebody, usually Scott or, one of the board members, constantly keeping an eye on what's going on in Lansing and, keeping close touch with the Brewers Association to make sure that, we're fighting for the good fight or whatever you want to call it, know. And I've been really fortunate on my end to get to do stuff with the Brewers Association, to go to Great American Beer Festival or the National Guilds gatherings they've started doing, and they come to our winter conference. That's a great learning tool. The most I've learned since I've been here is when I'm sent to the things with other guild leaders, and we get to exchange ideas and bounce things off of each other, and you find out that Indiana's doing things like this, and California's doing that, and Ohio's doing this, and it's that's another great collaboration.
Yeah.
So it's not just about Michigan. It's kind of, all the state guilds have that same sense of camaraderie and stuff.
Yeah.
And we exchange stuff, and they take that back to their brewers, and we take what we learn back to, back home to Michigan, and try to help our guys with it too.
So I imagine in your role, you have more contact. Well, your team and you all have more contact with more breweries than most of the smaller groups or an individual brewery, because you're talking to everybody big and small, new and old.
It's got
forming
crazy.
And everything else. So I'm not sure where the question is there, other than that. What do you find is the biggest takeaway for the different types of members? Like, what have you seen in terms of brewers that stay in touch with the guild a lot, big and small? Kind of what's in it for them, or kind of how have you seen them really use that relationship to help their business?
That's something we're really trying to push, that the members of the Michigan Brewers Guild, so all the brewers that are part of this, they own this organization. And we would love to see way more active involvement by everyone. I think, I've heard it from all the different sizes, small and large. A lot of them saying there's a disconnect. We've gotten so big, there's so many members now, and they're starting to want to come back and say, what can we do to be more involved? So we'll get, people that run for the board. That's a huge big thing. When you're on the board and you're in that group of people, you're the one helping to make the decisions. And we hear from, a wide variety. From a little brew pub all the way up to, the larger ones. The more you come to the conferences and the festivals, and now we're starting to do these member forums. We're trying to do 4 a year in different parts of the state, where you can just show up and ask whatever questions you want to ask. I think the people that are starting to do that, because we're starting to see more of a turnout for that kind of thing, feel more part of the family. They don't feel that disconnect. They feel like we care about them, and they care about our organization, and then it's a good two-way street with communication. But that's something that it's getting harder and harder to do with the size. I mean, the explosion of breweries in the state. So
Yeah.
I push that. That's why I really like to try to walk around at the festival and go up to the different members, to the booth, say hello, try a beer, shake their hand. It's hard to put names to faces with this many people, but I think when we do that, sorry, I'm rambling.
No, that's good.
The one thing I really like that we still do, so there's 3 of us on staff, that before someone's approved as a member, one of us visits their brewery. And, depending on where it is in the state, we'll volunteer to go or whatever. And I always try to make sure I find out if at least the general manager, the owner, whoever's there, and introduce myself. Tell them I'm from the Guild. This is your official brewery visit, whatever. We used to go in there and Scott would say, you don't have to tell them you're there, just make sure you go in and pay the visit and make sure they're brewing beer. But I like to introduce myself, and he started to do that more too. And you find that really means a lot to them. Mm-hmm. Like, they get that sense right from the beginning that we care. And now we've initiated, our board members decided when someone becomes a new member, I let them know, and they give them a call and introduce themselves, welcome them to the Guild. So right from the get-go, we're trying to tell them, we care about you. You can always reach out to us. And then there's not that frustration down the road where, it's a small brewery and they're like, Guild doesn't care about us.
Never heard from them.
Right. So that's super important. I think that personal connection means a lot. And we're trying to keep that up, even with, 250 plus members now.
Yeah.
But we're very, very open to advice and questions, and we're here for them, and our board is here for them, and I just would really like to get that across too.
Yeah.
That they can reach out, and
that's good.
It matters.
Can you kind of describe your team, like who's on the Brewers Guild team besides the board? We can get to the board in a minute, but like who makes up the staff of the Michigan Brewers Guild, and what do you guys do briefly? Like, kind of what are your roles? Executive director is Scott Graham, and he does everything. It's funny because people will email sometimes, like consumers, and I think they think of us as some like big corporation. Like, well, we sent you an email, 2 days ago and you didn't get back. There's 3 of us. There's 3 of us. So Scott is the executive director, and he is a great boss. He deals a lot with the Lansing stuff and the legislation. He's always on top of everything that's going on. Like, it blows my mind. But he still, plans this party. He still makes sure there's food trucks here. He's very involved. It's almost probably too much. Like, he has, I don't even know how he does everything he does. He still books the hotel rooms for these events. And we have a lot of volunteers that help us. But, Scott is the one with the hand in the fire all the time. And we have a Monday morning staff meeting. He always wants to keep in touch every single Monday morning, even though we all work remotely, with what the rest of us are doing. So I'm the membership manager, and Shannon O'Brien is our events manager. So Shannon, she deals with all the brewery registration for the festivals, the beer orders. She's also she's the person on the phone if you call, so customer service, all of that. I've taken over membership management, so I, get new members signed up, put them on our website, welcome them, send them an email. One of us will go out and visit them, and I also do all the financial and accounting and all of that end of it, and kind of like whatever else needs to be done. Mm-hmm. We all just pitch in, and it's a team effort. And there's times when she's super busy doing beer orders, and maybe I'll pick up something that would normally be her job, or vice versa. And Scott too, he's always willing to do whatever needs to get done, even if it's not technically his job. So it's kind of a big team effort, but he's definitely the one steering the ship. Awesome. How many volunteers do you think you deal with in a given year? We've been incredibly fortunate to have kind of the same basic group. We've got a grounds crew, we've got our keg guys, keg team, and the keg team, one of them brings his wife, who kind of helps me run the office at festivals. So there's usually about 6 or 8 keg guys and a couple wives. We've got to have like a good 30 that are loyal and come to almost every festival if they can make it. And they all have their specific roles. And I remember the first time I went to Summer Beer Fest as an employee, my mind being blown by just
people just are putting these fences up. And people are, on forklifts moving. Like, they know what to do. We don't even have to. They do it every time. And they do it for the love of Michigan craft beer. We don't pay these guys. They show up and they want to be part of this too. They want to be part of the family too. And I've gotten to be actually pretty close with a lot of them. And we'll hang out at night and, we'll take them out to dinner or whatever and thank them for their hard work because they work hard. We couldn't do it without them. There's no way, If we had to pay people to do what these volunteers do, I don't think we'd be able to pull this off. So, but yeah, a few people come and go here and there. They get new jobs and they can't do it anymore. We had one guy on the keg team for years, John. We call him Wogie. It's Wolgamont, I believe his last name. He moved to Wisconsin for his job after he got out of college. The keg team guys started out as, they were sorority guys from Western. And he still kept coming. Well, now he got married and they moved to California. And then him and his wife flew back to work at Winter Beer Festival this year. Well, now he got a new job and he's in Oregon and he doesn't have any vacation time yet. So he had to miss this one. But it's real loyalty. It's really amazing to see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think that's, I guess one of the reasons I was asking that is I think it's important that people understand how much goodwill effort is being put in and being generated. It's like both directions. Like the success of the brewery movement has created a lot of goodwill and has invited a lot of people who are excited. And then on the other hand, we couldn't have done it without all that goodwill. So I think it's important to be grateful and to also recognize how powerful it is that what this community has sort of created.
It's really amazing. It is. It's hard to describe to other people. It's almost cultish in a way, and it's very loyal and it's a good thing. And you forget sometimes when you're in the thick of it and you're working, a million hours trying to get stuff ready for a festival, but you show up and then everybody's happy to see each other and, everybody comes up and gives hugs and then you remember why you're here. I say that the hardest time for me is between Detroit Fall Beer Festival and Winter Beer Festival when there's no festival. And I kind of forget sometimes, like when I'm just plugging away. But then you show up and it's...
This is starting to feel like work.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, it's...
At least you got the conference to tide you over. It's not quite the same.
It is, yeah. But it's a long stretch between winter and summer a little bit too.
Yeah.
You kind of start to miss everybody. But then by the time you get to the end of festival season, it's like, okay, I've had enough of you guys. I need a break.
Yeah.
So...
Is there anything you wish more brewers knew about the Brewers Guild?
Yeah, you know what? The hardest thing, like I was saying before, that I think some of the newer and smaller ones that maybe haven't been super involved and just joined and don't necessarily know anyone, they think we're like the bad guy. Like, I feel like they look at the board of directors almost as against them somehow. Like, I don't understand the mindset where it seems like they think that we're in it for, I don't know what reason.
Yeah.
Because we're here for them,
Right.
I would like them to know that I've worked with, okay, so I've been here 4 years and the board changes over. It's 2-year terms and then it's 3 and 4 that get elected. So I've dealt with, a changeover of a few boards. I've yet to see someone on that board that doesn't genuinely care about everybody. These guys really do care. They really, really do. And they're volunteers too. They're not getting paid for it. You did it,
Yeah.
And I that's what I tell brewers all the time. Is your board cares about you. They really do care what you guys think and what you say. They may not be able to change it. Everybody wants what they want right now.
Yeah.
Brew pubs want to self-distribute or whatever. We can't fix that. We can't fix it all, but they do care and they do listen.
Yeah.
So I wish everybody knew that. Go ahead and send them an email or give them a call. They'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Brigham would spend hours on the phone with you when he was the president if somebody had a question and needed to be talked to. They do. They care.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yep, it is.
What are you most proud of about the Guild? Or your work with the Guild?
I think for a little engine that could think, we pull off a hell of a party, 4 times a year for a lot of people. I'm very proud of the show that we put on. I am. I think it's, I've been to a lot of festivals. I'm sure everybody has across the country, across the state. And I think what we do it very, very well. We do a great job.
Awesome. Well, thanks for everything you're doing to make it happen.
You're welcome.
I think I'm good, unless you got anything you want to add.
That's it.
Awesome. Thanks for listening and sharing while supporting Michigan breweries and craft beer everywhere. The Michigan Brewers Guild was formed in 1997 with its first summer beer festival taking place in July of 1998. Its now 5 annual festivals are dedicated exclusively to Michigan beer brewed by more than 270 member breweries. The Michigan Brewers Guild exists to promote and protect the passionate Michigan beer industry in every way possible. To learn more, visit us at mibeer.com or say hello on one of our social media pages, as we love hearing from you. From coast to coast, from far and near, let's drink Michigan beer.